Senator, can you elaborate on the response you gave about the abortion question? We obviously were seeing you in medical affairs this past week. You weren't there today for that vote, but we know you proxied the vote
Sure.
with talking about amendments if it gets to the floor. Can you talk about what your amendments would look like in terms of what you put on that bill?
Well, I touched on it tonight during the debate. I'm not going to support putting women in jail over abortion. I mean, as I said tonight, it's a justice and mercy, two sides of the coin. Well, I'm pro-life, and I want to move the state in a pro-life direction, and I think we did that with Heartbeat. I was proud of that bill, worked hard on that bill, and supported it. Still think that's a really good place right now to see how that law works. I told the chairman of medical affairs I would allow the bill to move forward, but I had some significant concerns with the penalty structure. Frankly, even the 20 years on the OBGYNs. I mean, one piece of testimony that really affected me was an OBGYN, I can't remember the doctor's name. She came in and said they were having a very difficult time getting anybody to intern in South Carolina or join the program here. And so while I don't want OBGYNs out kind of performing recreational, I call it birth control abortions, I don't think that's appropriate. And I don't want them out there breaking the laws that we pass. That being said, there are a lot of circumstances with certain medications that have been targeted through some of the legislation that's used for things like D&Cs or miscarriages, and I don't want anybody feeling that they're going to have their license stripped or go 20 years jail over misunderstandings. We got to tighten that up, be careful about the penalty structure. We're happy to talk about pro-life, but there's got to be some balance, and I said that in committee, and I'll do that on the floor if we ever have a floor debate on it.
The next debate, the polling threshold goes up to 5%.
Yep.
Are you going to be able to make that 5%?
Yeah, I believe, look, it's interesting to me. The only polls that have been published since the first debate were pushed by other campaigns. I haven't seen any real polling average change since then. It's conspicuous that nobody's put out any real statewide polls that are independent since the first debate. I felt that the reaction we had on the first debate, laying out a positive agenda of what I've worked on in the legislature, all the things we've done, we felt a very strong bounce off that. We saw enormous traffic go to our website, all of this stuff, people checking out our position statements. So yeah, I believe so. I believe we are there now when we get an actual statewide poll from the first one. And after tonight, I felt very good about tonight's debate.
South Carolina ranks lowest in the nation in many categories. Education is one of the top ones. You've been in office, all these others have been in office. Why is it still that way? And what's going to change it?
Well, one thing we've done since I've been in office, we have seen improvement. We've seen test scores improve. We've seen things improve in the right direction. This is a 40-year hole that you can't fix in 4, but we've made great strides toward true school choice. I support school choice, frankly. I went to public school. Our kids go to public schools. I'm not anti-public schools. Therefore, I've consistently supported raising those teacher salaries, making sure those numbers come up to where competitive with the national average. But the thing that's really going to change the ballgame is having universal school choice, to where moms and dads get to make a decision on where their child goes to school. If you see over the last few years, we've enhanced and supported additional charter school legislation. We've made great strides in that department. We've seen more moves towards school choice, and that's good for everybody, whether you send your kid to a public school or a private school. Because if you've got teachers that are being sought after by private schools, charter schools, and public schools, that's going to put upward pressure on their salaries. Higher quality folks coming in, more and more well-qualified teachers. We get more supply for the demand. I think that's a positive for the teachers. But then every child learns differently. So if you have a child that needs a special program for whatever his or her giftings may be or challenges, the only way you accomplish that is through more school choice, and we've seen more movement toward school choice, charter schools, while continuing to increase funding for public schools in the past 4 years than any point in modern South Carolina history.
But does that mean, though, that public school teachers are going to lag behind, though, in salaries simply because all these parents may go to these other schools, and part of the reason they go to the other schools is because the teachers in public schools have never been paid enough, and so that's why they like the charter schools, and only because if we had more teachers who were being paid better in public schools, it would work. Why haven't public school teachers gotten better raises?
They have. They've gotten a raise every year for the past 5 years, and we've done it the last 5 years in the state budget. We're going to vote in the state budget tomorrow in the Senate. I think we've built in yet another increase there. I don't think you're going to see a sucking sound with everybody leaving. I mean, a lot of these public schools, particularly in the upstate, we have very well-paying public school jobs where teachers are getting very competitive wages and salaries. So I don't think you're going to have this. I've heard this in other states when they pass school choice. They'll say, oh man, if we do school choice, if we provide more choice for parents, we're going to be in a position where the public schools are killed. The #1 state in the country for kids that go to charter schools and private schools is Florida. And yet it's still like 90% of students go to a public school. So this notion that public schools are going to be gutted because there's school choice is just not true. It's never been true in any state where it's happened.
Senator, we've seen your name a lot in to win over voters who may have been on the fence or may have been feeling differently since.
I believe so. I think we've made a, look, I pointed out tonight, I'm not just proposing ideas just out of thin air. We're not sitting down with a notepad saying, hey, issue A, B, C, and D, this is what we're going to go talk about. I've actually had to do all of these things. And in the legislature since 2020, well, 21, when I came into office in January, we saw I've had to work on everything from tax cuts, regulatory reform, all these life questions that we're dealing with now, struggling with conservationism and trying to preserve the culture of the state. I mean, this is stuff I actually have had to do and am doing every single day. And I think people can tell that. I mean, I'm up here citing specifics. I'm not saying, okay, I might do this. I've done it. I can build on that record. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Senator.